Hi guys, I don't really want to waste your time here, so let's just get right into this build. Okay, our party is going to consist of Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith. Aerith is actually going to be the absolute MVP here. With this build, she is absolutely insane. She can almost solo some of these bosses in this challenge. So let's see what makes her so good. Okay, so for Aerith, we are using the Mithril Rod. This weapon has the best magic attack, and pretty much anything that helps with that is perfect for Aerith, because she's going to be our main damage dealer. For the armor, we are using the Chain Bangle. It has 4 materia slots, and it also gives great defense. For the accessory, we need the Fury Ring, because it really helps with damage, and obviously, as I said, we really need to increase that damage as much as we can. Okay, so for the materia, we are going to be pairing the lightning materia with the elemental materia. You also need the fire materia, 2 MP ups, and 2 magic ups. Again, we need the damage, and also MP is really important in this fight. We are actually not going to be using the summons in this fight, but you can equip them to give your characters the stat boost, so Bahamut works great for Aerith. You also need the Skill Master materia, the First Strike materia, and the Stat Fast Block materia. This materia you actually want on all of your characters, especially on Tifa and Cloud, because they're going to be blocking for the majority of the fight, so this is a great way for them to gain some of that ATB back. Okay, so for Cloud, we are using the Mithril Saber. This is his best magic weapon, and he's actually going to be assisting Aerith with the lightning spells, so this is a perfect match. For his armor, anything really that has 4 materia slots is perfect. And again, we need another Fury Ring for Cloud, because of that increased damage that it gives us. For the materia, we need lightning materia, obviously. You don't really need the elemental materia, but you can just put it there to give his basic attacks a little bit of the lightning boost. You also need 2 MP ups on Cloud. He doesn't really have a lot of MP naturally, so this will help with that. You can have the healing materia and the revival materia on Cloud just as a backup. You probably won't be needing this, but in case that the fight goes wrong, you can just have these there as a backup. Also, you can put the Shiva materia on Cloud as well, because you can actually skip Ifrit in this fight, and I'm going to show you how it's done, but it's not like 100% guaranteed. It can get pretty complicated, so if Ifrit actually gets summoned in, you can then summon Shiva to assist you against him, because she's obviously a great help against Ifrit. You also need 2 HP ups on Cloud just to make him more tanky. ATB stagger materia is also great, and obviously the stat fast block materia. For Tifa, we are using the Mithril Claws. This is her best magic weapon as well, and actually we are going to be using Tifa as a mage in this fight, which I know sounds kinda crazy because she's pretty much the best fighter in the game, but yeah, she can actually work great as a mage as well. You can also put any armor that has 4 materia slots on Tifa, and you need the healing accessory. You need the magnify materia, and you actually need to combine it with the time materia. Because Tifa's main role in this challenge is actually going to be buffing and healing everybody. So she's pretty much going to cast haste at the beginning of every fight. So you need the First Strike materia for that. Also the stat fast block materia. The healing materia, obviously, and the revival materia. You can also put the Leviathan materia on Tifa just to give her more of that magic boost. Also, ATB boost materia can be really helpful whenever you need to do some emergency healing and some emergency buff or whatever. So whenever you don't really have a lot of ATB available, you can use this to gain an instant ATB boost. Also, you can put a HP up on Tifa just to make her more tanky, and 2 MP ups are also needed, because we need to give Tifa as much of that MP to work with as possible. So this is pretty much it for the build. We can get right into the fight now. Here we go. So we want to cast haste right at the beginning of the fight, so use Tifa to do that. Then use the Arcane Ward on Aerith, immediately followed by the Tempest and then Firaga. And since we're standing on the Arcane Ward, Aerith is actually going to cast Firaga twice without using any additional MP, which is a great way to save it up. And then you can chain another Tempest and then use Fira. And after that, just chain another Tempest and then use Fire twice. You can use other characters here if you want, but it's really not needed since Aerith is more than enough to finish Shiva off, which will give you the idea about how powerful she is with this build. Okay, so the next fight is a little bit more complicated. We are again starting off with Tifa and Haste. Aerith should use the Fleeting Familiar followed by the Tempest, and then you should dodge to the side right after that. Then you should move in really close and cast the Arcane Ward. Then you should cast Fira. I actually ended up casting another Tempest here, which proved not to be all that smart because I ended up taking a hit. Moogle will start summoning other enemies here, but it usually isn't much of a problem, you should just concentrate on the Chocobo. And now that he's staggered, it's time for some sorcery. So do another Tempest and then do Sorcerer's Storm twice. This is the ability that we're going to be using the most here. It's actually probably one of Aerith's best abilities. Okay, now we need to repeat the same sequence again, but we need to add another Sorcerer's Storm. The most important thing here is to do as much damage as we can while we still have the stagger. You can also use Tifa's triangle attacks to increase the stagger, and also if you see that Cloud is standing on the Arcane Ward, just make him cast Tandaga. Now you can use the Tempest or just the basic attacks to increase the ATB, and then when you have enough you can just cast Fira. And really, the only character that you need here is Aerith. She deals insane damage. And the only thing that you need to do now is build up your ATB with the basic attacks, and one more Sorcerer's Storm should finish the job. Okay, so the next enemy is actually Leviathan, and he can be pretty tough, but with the right strategy we can defeat him without much difficulty. Okay, again, make Tifa buff everybody with haste, and then you should block Leviathan's next attack. Then cast the Lustrous Shield on Aerith. This will actually protect her from his projectiles, but not the laser attack, which is called the Briny Bellow, so whenever you see that coming up, make sure to block. The next thing you need to do is build up your ATB with the basic attacks, and when you have enough of it, just cast the Arcane Ward on Aerith. Also make sure to watch out for the Briny Bellow, because you can't really cancel Aerith's attacks whenever you want to. I actually didn't really pay attention here, so I got hit by the Briny Bellow. And now we need to start casting Tandara. There is really no point in casting stronger spells, because we really need to preserve our MP. And Aerith is actually strong enough to do enough damage even with the weaker spells. And also don't worry if the shield is standing like this, it can still protect you as long as you're behind it. You can actually use Cloud to help you out with the lightning spells here, even though he's not really standing on the Arcane Ward, it can help towards pressuring Leviathan. And when that happens you can use the Tempest because he's going to be standing in place, and then of course you can use Tandara. It's also a good shout to use the Thunder spell because it's really quick and Leviathan is about to disappear anyway. And when he does, you can actually use this time to heal your characters if you really need to. And if you see that he's flying off like this actually means that he's going to use the dive attack. And don't worry, this might look intimidating, but you can avoid most of the damage by blocking. And actually you have the stat fast block materia equipped on all of your characters, so you're going to be gaining ATB back this way, which is a really helpful way to keep your ATB up. And when you see that he's using Aquatic Focus, just cast a Tempest because he's going to be standing in place for a while. And then you should just focus on using Tandara both with Aerith and Cloud. And if you manage to stagger him, you're actually going to be avoiding his most annoying attack when he starts flying around and becomes very difficult to reach. And once he's staggered, a simple Thunder spell from Aerith is enough to take him down, because we all know how poggers Aerith is. Seriously, she's insane. And now comes the big boy. Okay, we're starting the fight off again with Tifa casting Haste and Aerith casting the Arcane Ward. You should also block right after because this dude hits really hard. And now we just need to make our way back to the Arcane Ward to cast a Tandaga spell. That doesn't actually have to be with Aerith, Cloud can do this as well. It doesn't really matter how much damage we deal, we just need to interrupt Bahamut's attacks. Because the key to this fight is actually to keep Bahamut stun locked with the elemental spells so that he can't summon his body Ifrit. And you should actually do this both with Aerith and Cloud, because this is where Cloud actually starts becoming really useful. Or he can just be a doofus and push Aerith off the board, of course. And when you see that Bahamut is starting to count down from 5, immediately cast a Tempest followed by the Soul Drain, because this is actually going to cancel this attack, and believe me, you don't want him to do it, this is his most devastating attack. After this you should just cast a Tempest and a Fira. And now it's actually time for the big guns, so keep using the Tandaga and Fire-Raga spells. Also, whenever you see that Cloud has enough ATB to cast a spell, switch to him, get him back on the board and make him cast Tandaga. And when you get Bahamut down to half health, he's actually going to start summoning Ifrit. And you obviously don't want this to happen because the two of them together are actually really hard to take down. So just keep him stun locked with the elemental spells, and also use the Tempest here because he's going to be mostly stationary. Also keep an eye on your health and heal whenever you need to. And actually keeping Bahamut stun locked can prove really difficult. You do need some really great RNG here actually. And also don't be surprised if you don't, manage on the first try. You probably won't even manage on like the 10th try. Because Bahamut is really the hardest boss that you're going to face in this challenge. Actually, the last boss is like pretty much like a piece of cake compared to Bahamut. So yeah, if you actually manage to get past Bahamut, you're almost as good as done with this challenge. So yeah, just try to keep Bahamut stun locked with the elemental spells. Don't think about your MP here, just hit him with all the strongest spells that you have. And that's it, Bahamut is taken down. And if you actually don't manage to kill Bahamut before he summons Ifrit, don't worry, you can still do it, it's just going to be a little bit more difficult. Okay, that's a lie, it's going to be a lot more difficult depending on how much health Bahamut has left. But you can still carry on with the fight, and the only thing that you can really do here is focus all of your attention on Bahamut. Just try to forget that Ifrit even exists. And I know that this probably sounds very counterintuitive, but it actually makes sense because Bahamut is doing the majority of the damage here, so you just really need to focus on taking him down first, and then you can just focus all of your attention on Ifrit once he's down. So just try to get Cloud and Aerith back on the board and cast the Tandaga spells, because they're the better choice here, since they never miss. You can't really afford to miss during this fight. So if he has just a little bit of health left, like in this case, you're probably going to be fine, as long as you keep your health up, and as long as you keep reviving your teammates. And this is actually where all of that extra material that we have equipped both on Cloud and Tifa comes in very handy, because, this fight can get really hectic, so you really need to keep reviving your teammates and you need to heal and stuff. But you can actually really get through this as long as you keep your attention on Bahamut, and then when he's down, Ifrit actually isn't all that hard to take down. I actually ended up prolonging the fight because of this. There is one thing that you can do here to get some of that MP back. Basically, you can just try to use the Soul Drain on Ifrit whenever you have a chance. Aerith can obviously do this, and you're actually going to end up with a lot more MP for the next fight if you just keep doing this. Also, we have the Shiva materia equipped on Cloud, so if you really want to, you can also summon her in. If you feel unsure about the fight and if you just want to have a little bit of that extra safety, you can just summon her in. She is going to be a great help against Ifrit. And if she actually manages to do her final attack, she's going to pretty much finish Ifrit off all by herself. So yeah, just keep using the Soul Drain, try to keep everyone's health up, also revive people as needed. And this is really the specific reason why we had all of that healing and revival materia equipped on Cloud and Tifa, precisely because of this reason. This fight can get hectic, you know, when Ifrit gets involved, but when he's on his own, actually, he is quite easy. It's also smart to keep blocking whenever you don't really have a lot of ATB, because we have that stat fast block materia equipped on everybody, so we're probably never going to run out of ATB. There's another thing that you can do here. You can just keep switching between your characters just to confuse Ifrit. That's always a great tactic to use whenever you're like dealing with an enemy that's giving you trouble. And here we are at the last fight. So, as before, use haste with Tifa just to give everybody a little bit of a buff, and then try to get behind Pride and Joy, because he can almost one-shot you with the beam cannon. So yeah, this is pretty important. And then just cast the Arcane Ward once you're behind him, and you can actually just use the Tandara spell to make him collapse. And when he is collapsed, he's pretty much done, because the only thing that you really need to do here is just keep breaking his legs repeatedly. So basically just use the Thunder spell with Aerith to repeatedly break his legs. Since Aerith is so powerful with this build, just a simple Thunder spell is enough to just keep breaking his legs. Also, you can mix in Tempest in between just to keep Aerith's ATB up. You can also use Cloud here if you want. It all just really depends on how much MP you have left on Aerith. And yeah, this is pretty much the only strategy that you really need here. I'm really unsure why they made this challenge like this, because for me, this was probably the easiest boss in the challenge. Obviously, Bahamut being the hardest one, and if you manage to get past him, you're as good as done with this challenge, really. And also, if you don't really manage to keep him in this state, you're still probably going to be fine, because you've already got past the ultimate test here. Just a few more Thunder spells from Aerith, and Pride and Joy is history. And that's pretty much it. Now you have the best accessory in the game, that actually has a name that is absolutely impossible to pronounce, so I'm not even going to try. And this accessory is actually really useful on the hard mode, because it enables you to enter every fight with your limit break already full. So, thanks everybody for watching. I hope that this guide has helped you to some extent. Stay safe and see you again in the next one.